I'm GetAmazed. I used to play for Eagle Gaming. Then I played for 1 Points, and now I'm just doing. I'm being like assistant coach in NA for Grunto Esports, and we are up to 2-0 for the moment in Contenders East, NA Contenders East. So yeah, I don't have that much to say.
No, that's very nice, very nice. We're just getting off to the season, so congrats on making Grunto. Then we got, is it Jona or Jona?
Hello, Jona. I play his camp for Young and Beautiful.
Welcome. You guys are doing pretty well this season. We'll be talking about that a little later. Lastly, we got Elfishguy.
Hello, yeah. I'm the commentator for Australian Contenders. Have been doing it since Contenders started in Australia, but I don't only work on Overwatch, I do any number of games, which is kind of a whole different kettle of fish when it comes to Australian esports, but I'm not so sure that you necessarily want to get into that discussion too much.
We totally can. We totally can. We can get into that mixed bag. We have a lot of guests from Australia on the episode, so I think they're always a big bag of fun. So got a lot to cover there. If everything stops freezing for me, we'll be getting to our first segment, which is the origins of esports for you guys. We'll start from Elfishguy. How did you guys get into esports?
Well, I mean, that's a long story. I've been in esports for about 5-6 years, something like that. And initially I started as a player in Team 42, and then I sort of moved into playing League of Legends, and then inevitably started moving into casting as that kind of came up. And I first started casting League of Legends, and then I moved to Counter-Strike casting, which I still do. And obviously, when Overwatch came out, I sort of wanted to work in Overwatch if that was at all possible. But that took a while before we got Australian Contenders, which was the first real sort of way for me to dip my toes into Overwatch as a commentator. And so I guess, yeah, one thing led to another. Eventually, I'm here. Knew a few people at Blizzard Australia. Obviously, I was fairly well respected within the Australian esports community as a commentator to begin with. So I think there was a few things that sort of led me down that track to ending up being one of the casters in Contenders Australia. Thank you.
Move on to Jona. Jona, how did you get into
Hello.
esports?
Well, I used to play StarCraft too, professionally. I used to go to the DreamHack, the whole DreamHack circuit and stuff like that in Europe. And then after a while, Legacy of the Void got released, and I didn't really like it as much as I liked the previous expansions. So then I stopped playing, and then Overwatch came out, and I just started playing, and just kind of like organically started competing in that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, very nice. What was the transition from StarCraft to Overwatch? Was there like a bit of a falling out in the StarCraft community?
For the fact that, because I wasn't the only person that switched. Like back then, because a lot of people, there were quite a few people, like Chubbs, Marine Lord, Lilbo, there were quite a few people that were kind of I don't know, done with StarCraft, and then started playing Overwatch. And I think back then the whole StarCraft community was kind of negative and complaining about the game losing popularity and stuff. Right now StarCraft's in a more positive space because Blizzard's kind of listening to the community and implementing a lot of stuff they wanted. But back then it was just people weren't happy with StarCraft, and it only made sense that people quit and moved on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. There's been that falling out from a lot of different games, and I feel like that's kind of been that way for a bunch of games leading up to Overwatch. Is like they're moving over either from Counter-Strike or League of Legends. There was like an amalgamation
TF2.
of TF2 was like the biggest one, I think. And
what's the other class-based shooter called? It's like a free game. that I think Taimu used to play it. A bunch
Was
of
it
people
Dirty
came.
Bomb?
Yes, Dirty Bomb. A
Mm,
bunch of people came in
yeah.
that game as well.
That
Right?
was a very fun game, but
What was it
didn't
called?
quite make it. Dirty Bomb.
Okay, I'll have to look this up because I actually
It
have
was
no
like a
idea.
lot more hit scan based than Overwatch is.
Yeah.
So it was like kind of TF2 or
Yeah, I think so. I haven't never played
Yeah.
it, but like I knew a bunch of people at the start of Overwatch, like the first teams I was on, like a lot of people had at least played Dirty Bomb or came from Dirty Bomb or something like that. Like,
It never really sort of took off though. Like there was never a
Yeah.
competitive scene really. I mean, I don't know about other regions, but definitely in Australia, there
Mhm.
was like maybe one or two sort of small events. But yeah, definitely a lot of players that went from Dirty Bomb, or well, they went from TF2 to Dirty Bomb to Overwatch, or directly from TF2 to Overwatch.
Whoa.
At least here.
that's cool. I've never actually heard of that game, so that's really cool to hear. Yeah, it sounds like they had some pretty good pros that moved on from there. Got a lot of people in the chat saying hello from EU, some from NA. Holy moly! If you're from NA and you're watching this live, man, I feel your pain. This is not a normal NA episode. I wanted to cater it to EU and Australia viewers because we normally always cater to the like East Coast audience. So pretty good. GetAmazed. How did you get into esports?
Okay, so before Overwatch, I mean, I was already playing at World of Warcraft and League of Legends. But I was doing like sport for a living. I was doing martial arts, MMA, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And like one time I had like a car crash, and I went into a really deep depression. And in this like moment when I had to stop doing my sport, uh, there was like Eagle Gaming. We had like trials, and I just like did my trial for Eagle Gaming, and it went well. So I never go back to sport, and I keep going like in Overwatch. So I was just playing like for fun, and one day like they offered me to trial for Eagle Gaming, and I did well. So yeah,
Is there like clips of you fighting?
yeah, you can find
Yeah,
it.
I want to see after. After you can
I
show
send
me.
it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
Can I get that in the show notes as well? Because I think a lot of people would be interested in.
There is a little a small one on Twitter already. Wait,
Ooh.
let me find it.
All right. Here.
I have some pictures if you want. I can send you some pictures.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I've never had.
That's cool.
Yeah, everyone
I
in the
send you
chat
some
is like, yes.
Give me a sec.
Hmm.
Okay, so that was the final. I send you on Discord.
Of course.
Uh,
So just a heads up for everyone in the watching the stream. If you have any questions for the chat, for the guests, make sure to put them in the chat or put them in our Discord. Discord will be in the commands, I believe it is. !grind. Very spicy.
I saw your last episode had a bit of discussion about that, that command.
Very spicy exclamation point. There we go. Oh, we already got a question from Almost Panda. All right, where's this link? Where's this? Oh my goodness. We'll have to... Actually, can I put that in the Twitch chat?
yeah, you can.
I'm going to put the last one in with the group picture. Oh, no. I'm going to put the second one in. Okay.
Yeah,
That is
the second one's the
cool.
best one.
Yeah,
Just take the
Absolute
punch.
unit.
yeah, that's actually
Wait,
amazing.
are you punching or getting punched?
I was punching. Look at the face of the guy. He was like going away.
That's amazing.
It was a pretty much.
It's a very long image link, but it's not a virus, guys. I swear. We are not the king of shady links here.
So yeah, and I was like I was doing sport, and yeah, I had this thing, and yeah, I just like went into e-sport. I mean, for me, like I was playing Overwatch just for fun, and I had nothing to do. I was just like playing every day. I was being stronger and stronger, and like it happened that we had this trial for Eagle Gaming, and so yeah, I did well, and I committed into esport.
Did you play on like teams at all before Eagle Gaming, or did you just play
No,
like a
never.
bunch
I
of
mean,
random?
we had like I had one amateur teams. It was like a really, I mean, I'm sorry for them, but it was a really bad team. It was like, like just playing with friends and having fun in streams.
Yeah.
But I never played seriously. So yeah.
I mean, you got on the team to be on
At the
when you first
beginning, we were
started.
making jokes about Eagle Gaming, but at the end, yeah, we did great.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those teams that just rose up out of nowhere, and it ended up
Yeah,
taking that contender season completely. That was that was kind of amazing. Not
yeah.
gonna lie, that was a crazy season for EU in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the next question, which is, how did you guys go pro specifically?
I think I just answered to it. I just answered to this question
Mm-hmm.
already.
Yeah.
Uh,
Someone else want to get
yeah,
it?
Well, I
Um.
mean, we're not really a pro. I guess I could say how I got into professional commentary, which is again a bit of a longer story, but I was sort of just doing it online. I don't know what it's like nowadays getting into esports commentary, but when I started, everyone was doing bedroom casts, which I think to an extent is kind of what happens nowadays anyway. So I was doing bedroom casts of League of Legends, of some really low tier games, just like open ladder sort of things. And some guys sort of noticed, basically the equivalent of Broadcast.gg in a sense back in the day in Australia. Those guys noticed, and I ended up casting with them. And then uh, further and further down the track, I started doing some live events, really small sort of stuff at like conventions and that sort of thing. And then inevitably that led to some more international opportunities in Counter Strike, and obviously then more and more things happen. And now I work full time at ESL Australia. I'm the only full time commentator here, so I do pretty much everything. I do Overwatch, Counter Strike, PUBG, Rainbow Six,
How do you
and
keep up?
anything else on the side. Oh, yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's kind of a case of like forgetting everything. Like when the Overwatch season's over, it's like I don't really focus on Overwatch for like another 2 months, and then I have to go back after 2 months once the next season starts, relearn, figure out what's happened with the changes and the patches, and figure out what's happened with the teams and all that kind of thing. Because I'm trying to store all the Counter Strike knowledge or the
Yeah.
PUBG knowledge or the Rainbow Six knowledge. So it's a bit of
Would
a
you
grind,
like?
but
Would you prefer to just have like one game you could kind of center your stuff around, or do you like the different
yeah,
ones?
it's kind of there's pros and cons to both in a way, because I think I'm the kind of person, and even when I'm playing games, right, I don't just play the one game, which I feel like a lot of people actually do from what I've seen. Um, so I do jump around a lot, and I think I'd maybe get bored doing only one game. But on the same token, I never really feel like I can elevate myself to like the top tier of any given game as a caster that is so sort of spread across everything. As difficult as it is in the beginning to even get recognized in Australia, but even then, being someone that has to jump around games, it can be difficult.
It certainly sounds like something that's incredibly difficult, just because the metas in each of the games that you're casting might just change
Mm.
completely. Um, how? I guess the answer is like you must put a ton of time into, trying to study and research for these esports individually right before the season starts, respectively.
Yeah,
How,
definitely. I mean, at least the benefit for me is like I'm primarily a play-by-play commentator, so there isn't as much onus on me to have that knowledge as my co-commentator, who 9 times out of 10 is the guy that is like the CS dedicated guy, the Overwatch dedicated guy, or the PUBG dedicated guy. So I'm sort of dancing around as like the host play-by-play kind of lead caster, and I have someone to bounce off, and that's obviously a major asset for me. But yeah, I definitely put in a lot of like research and note taking. I mean, I guess the other benefit is like with Counter Strike, not a lot changes generally speaking. So that one's kind of easy to slot back into, especially because I've been doing it for so long. For things like Overwatch, where there might be a patch change every season, or even twice within a season when we get to playoffs. I don't know what you guys do, but we change patches at playoffs as well. And crazy stuff goes on. One season we're playing dive, next season we're playing 3-3. Now this season we've got bunker, we've got Clockwork Vendetta, we've got everything going on. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, very true. I think everyone is on the same patch every
Yeah,
contender season, right? Like everyone,
That would make sense.
all the regions are pretty set. I actually
Yeah, I mean,
wasn't.
I haven't watched, I haven't followed like every region, so I wouldn't know for sure, but I think so, yeah.
Mm.
Mm. And we can get into the metas in each region because there's actually a pretty big diversion, especially in EU. I feel like EU has the craziest meta right now, with Clockwork Vendetta really messing everyone up. It seems like every team has to like specifically prepare for that team.
Yeah, that's
And
what's happening, man.
yeah,
Every week, there's one team that's preparing for Clockwork Vendetta. And oh boy, do we hate scrimming that team when they're in that week.
how many times have you guys scrimmed them, if you don't mind me asking?
Clockwork? None. I think they've done a couple of scrims now to like adjust a couple strats, but like overall, their power is the fact that they don't scrim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because I feel like if I could play a week or a couple blocks worth against Clockwork, like them specifically, I feel like it would be miles easier in the official. But it's kind of that they have all these little niche gimmicks and tricks on their heroes that you figure out the first time as you get into the game with them. You know.
Mm-hmm. And I think GetAmazed. I think that goes the same for you, but with Sky Foxes in your region, if I recall correctly.
We actually play them. I mean, there's like a lot of different teams, but most of the time, like in NA, players are. I mean, we play a lot of summer gods. Um, yeah, but I mean, a lot of players play dive as well. But I really think like we have a lot of different comps, and there is not a lot of gods anymore. I think in NA at least. I'm not watching AU anymore. Not that
Yeah.
EU
much.
is kind of shifting as well. I think every region is just like looking at Overwatch League, seeing that they're playing a lot of summer gods. Oh, let's play a lot of summer gods. Like it's kind of like a ripple down effect, and then the weaker your region, the longer it takes till the ripples reach you. Kind of like I remember scrimming the South American teams in contenders, and they were still like trying to make like strats work from like a while back. You know, it feels like that's like the biggest gap between the regions. It's not necessarily like players individually, but more kind of like how far they've come in the meta process.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that comes from, I mean, at least in Australia for us, a lot of our information does obviously come from other regions because the majority of our teams and players are not full-time Overwatch players. So they don't necessarily have that time to develop the strategies themselves. So they naturally have to look elsewhere to see what's kind of going on and what they need to be picking up and doing. And that's not just Overwatch, that's sort of across every game within Australia. So I mean, that may be part of the reason, obviously, why Australia is quite behind when it comes to Overwatch in general. But I think it's sort of a victim of circumstance in a way.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I in a way, it's nice that you have contenders this way, but in a way, it would be nice if there was more region mixing, because I feel like playing the other regions would give everyone a lot of information and make everyone a little better. Like I think, kind of putting Australia and South America in their own little contenders region makes it a lot harder for the talent flourish, because you'll have one good team that just runs over everyone else. And then, like, what if you have one more player that's really good, but that's not on a team? Like, where's that guy gonna go? You know, like it's.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the gauntlets are helping in a way, but again, that's sort of like once a year, maybe best case scenario, a couple of times if you keep qualifying through. So, which we didn't, by the way. So,
Feels bad.
you know, and then like the you know that you're talking about the path to pro. It's like, well, what is the path to pro for an Australian player in particular? It's playing Overwatch Contenders Australia, and then playing Overwatch Contenders North America, and then playing Overwatch League. So it's like just an extra step that you have to take. I mean, I guess to an extent, Color Hex went from straight from Australia to Overwatch. But I think Trill even still went through NA.
Yeah.
You know, Punk's still in NA contenders.
Yep.
Obviously he's not old enough yet, but it's like just another barrier.
I mean, it's even the same for EU, man. Most EU players go to NA contenders before they go to AU.
Yeah, I just feel like in EU, like even like if you do like amazing performance and stuff, we
Yeah.
don't have enough visibility. And I mean, even if people watch our games, they don't take it like seriously. Like for
Yeah.
example, even like with Eagle Gaming, when we were like destroying literally everybody,
Yeah.
people were still making jokes about us, like saying, "Okay, in 2 days they will be bad or whatever." And like for example, like um, when I was looking for a team as a player, I literally had zero offer. And when I went to NA as coach, like every team I was training as coach, they were saying, "Oh, I want you as a player. I wish I could trail you as a off tank and stuff." I mean,
Yeah.
that's really weird. I don't know why, but so yeah.
That's a bit
No,
crazy.
definitely. I don't know. It sucks that we didn't do good at the showdown because I feel like Funi on LAN is always going to be head and shoulders in an A and EU, like head and shoulders above.
Mm.
So like I wasn't like okay, like they destroyed everyone fair, but I think the NV games were not really representative of how strong Hurricane and Angry Titans are generally. And people, I kind of got upset because I said something about like Hurricane not looking like themselves, and a lot of people were like, "Yeah, well, that's what happens when you play against someone that's way better than you." But then at the same time, they were making mistakes that aren't really like a forced mistake, but just like errors that you normally wouldn't make
Mm.
in a setting where you have a lot of these people that are like at their first LAN event, or at their first
Yeah.
live event, and it's frustrating, man, because now
Yeah.
it's EU loot, like, and
Yeah.
it sucks because I still feel like EU on average is a stronger contenders, like has stronger contenders teams than NA. Like we've scrimmed the mid tier NA contenders teams,
Mm-hmm.
and they seem very one dimensional in the way they play. It's like they just go in, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they don't seem to prepare for what you're doing. They just go in with what they want to do, kind of.
Yeah.
Damn.
I realize that in LA, like, I really feel like the players think like goats, you just go in most of the time. I mean,
Yeah.
when I joined Grunto, like, I could like bring them a lot of like, small details. I mean, small thing we do in AU, like for example, like it's a small detail, but I mean, like the double boop with Lucio and Diva on Reinhardt and stuff like this, and we didn't knew all of this stuff, I think, and yeah, I really think in NA, I think the attitude of players like they every time wanna make like huge plays and they wanna shine and stuff. So that's why they maybe GOATS isn't that good for them because like they're not able to play together because like most of the time players have a big ego and they just wanna pop off and say poke champ in the chat and stuff like this. So yeah, and in GOATS you cannot be like this. Like we need to die for your teammates and play for each other. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe that's why people are so relieved that, the meta's straying away from goats. There's going to be more playmaking potential and kind of,
Yeah.
in a way, less teamwork. Although I feel like having goats around and having it bend the meta for so long is really good because I feel like a lot of teams have improved because of that macro gameplay that just
Yeah.
wasn't there during pre-goats gameplay. Now we're actually getting to that
Yeah.
point where you're seeing these like elaborate combos of ultimates that are like, whoa, this has never been seen before. Um,
Mhm.
that's
But
really
would that
good.
have not been developed anyway? Like that there may be the argument that okay, even in this 12 months or 18 months or whatever that we've had, that those kinds of skills may have just naturally progressed anyway within Overwatch. Like in any game,
I
don't know.
think
skills progress.
I think
I'm not
yes.
saying it does, right? But
I
I'm
think
saying that is
yes.
a possibility.
I think yes,
Maybe
but
not
I
as
think
quickly.
yes, exactly. I think what
So-
happens with goats is that because you all play in a pack and you all rely on each other's cooldowns, everyone on the
I mean,
team
it forces you
becomes
to, right? Yeah.
everyone becomes like hyper aware of like the impact of your cooldown. If your Zarya bubble isn't timed right, to help your teammate, because your target bubble in that sense isn't for you, but it's for your Rein. And you notice if it's not time right, you just lose the fight, like straight up, like your Rein just disappears. And I think value of like your cooldowns, not for yourself but for someone else, is something that would have taken a lot longer to develop to like this like micro level, like okay, we're gonna use bubble and then ping and then matrix and in whatever order at whatever timing while they're distracted. This person, like the way dive worked was could have also been like this micro level, but in the end it never got developed that way because people were way more focused on how do I do the most damage personally, you know, like.
But if dive come back into the meta now, I mean, maybe we do see something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think any team that like went through this GOATS stage where they're actually like looking at micro level plays will end up going into dive with the same mentality now, and we'll see that carry over, like, for sure.
All right, let's get into the next question, which I think is the one of the coolest, which is, what is the origin of your username? We'll start with Elfishguy.
Back in primary school, I was a house captain. Again, I don't know if you guys have the concept of house captains in Europe and NA and stuff, but we had like sports teams. Sports teams were kind of hard to, I don't know how to explain this. The whole school played against each other in certain like athletics and that kind of thing, and we were split into 3 different teams. My team was called Lawson after one of the Australian poets. There was Patterson and McKellar, the other 2 teams. There was a male house captain, a female house captain for each team. I was one of the house captains, obviously, for my team. And the girl was a friend of mine who I always called Shorty. So she started coming back and calling me Elf, because I have big ears, which you can't see because I've always got a headset on. But, you know, eventually when I started making my usernames online, I started to sort of develop that, Elfishguy. And then the 11 comes from, in German, 11 is Elf. So it's sort of all ties back together.
Wow. Interesting.
I speak German, so...
Nice. Give us a little... I was going to say, give us a little German.
What would you like me to say?
I don't know.
Ich weiß nicht. That would be I don't know.
Oh, okay. That works, I
don't
guess.
know if any of you guys speak German, so I don't really want to embarrass myself.
I know only bad words.
Yeah. I know a few. I know a few.
How is it that every time someone mentions like a foreign language, it's like I know how to say your mom's a dog, but order I don't know, man. Like,
I think in German you would probably say a pig as opposed to a dog. Deine Mutter ist ein Schwein. Would be
whoa,
would be a bit
guys.
more derogatory than a
I called one F-bomb and we're getting to German swears.
I didn't say a swear word at all. I just said your mum's a pig.
That's
so if anyone wanted to know how to say that, there you go.
All right. Thank you. We got offensive phrases with with the grind here.
I mean, I am for Australia, so I don't know what you expected.
That's true. That's true. I don't know what I expected. All right, next, Jona.
Yes. Well, this dates back quite a while. So when I was born, my parents called me Jonathan.
Whoa.
No way.
That is a long way.
I don't know what happened, but as time progressed, people kept like removing letters, and now it's Jonah.
So next season you're going to be John.
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 Joe as well.
And then Joe.
I mean, legit, a lot of people realize like they're too lazy to say the 2 syllables, you know, so it just becomes Joe.
All right.
So yeah.
GetAmazed.
Oh, okay. So before Overwatch, my name was Amazed, just Amazed, and like when I joined Overwatch, I joined like a stream, and there is like a streamer, a French streamer, like he started yelling at me and saying I'm fucking toxic and stuff.
Ooh.
And I said, what the fuck? So after that, I understand that there is already one guy called Amaz. So I was like, okay, this guy have a really bad like story in this game, so I'm just gonna change my name. And I tried something like with GetAmazed and Amazed, you know, like it's a little thing. But my real nickname is Amaz. Just Amaz. But
Why?
Yeah.
Why though?
Oh, On World of Warcraft, I had amazing as nickname for like a few moments. I mean, a moment, and player was saying it's same for Jona. Like instead of saying Jonathan, they say like instead of saying amazing, they say Amaz and stuff. So it was like amazing, then Amaz, then GetAmazed, and later maybe I don't know what's gonna happen, but now it's GetAmazed.
What's up with gamers and like shortening phrases, shortening like really easy words?
I don't know.
That's kind of funny.
Is to improve the shot calling, man. When you're in high pressure situations and you have to fit a lot of words into a little amount of time, stuff gets short, man.
True. All right.
But then they always say it 3 or 4 times just to make sure you heard it.
Yeah,
So
because
it
everyone's
magnifies the
busy
point.
saying their own like little words and shit. Like
Beep, 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 beep. It's like, dude, I heard you the first time.
Yeah, that's like that for literally every single team, though. Got to say it 5 times or it doesn't count.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
it is like I think it is like that in Overwatch because there's so much information and there's also 6 people and there's constantly things happening that it's not coincidental that people say it more often. It is like a lot of stuff does kind of get lost in the clutter. So if something is important, you kind of have to repeat it. You know.
True. Got to say it once for every other teammate you have.
Every
That
teammate.
too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the
Ryan,
coach as well.
Ryan. Someone disconnects, it's only 4 Ryans. If the coach is there, it's 6. That's a good formula. All right, we'll get into our next topic, which is Contender Season 2 2019. I want to get into like a meta conversation. We talked about briefly Clockwork Vendetta and like having to scrim specifically for them, but them not really scrimming any other teams. We certainly have some other teams in other regions that are like diverging the meta as well. Is there any other standout teams or anything you guys are seeing in particular?
I mean, at least in Australian contenders, we're kind of getting a bit of everything at this point. And I sort of suppose that ties back to the playing catch up to other regions, you know, in that, like, obviously last season was almost all 3-3. We got into playoffs, saw a bit of bunker and that kind of stuff. Now this season, there's one team that's playing the Clockwork Vendetta with the May. There's 2 or 3 teams that are sort of still trying to make 3-3 work, normal just standard goats or Winston goats at least. Then there's another team that's sort of playing primarily DPS compositions, and then there's a few teams that are sort of leaning a little bit more towards bunker. So it's just everyone's jumping around the place quite crazily. But I do think that the teams that were playing standard 3-3 in like week 1 and 2 noticed a bit of a shift towards the Sombra goats more so in week 3. So it seems to be kind of catching up a little bit in that respect.
I definitely agree, and it does seem like we are getting into more somber goats, or just least just like DPS compositions in general. We have been seeing a bit of upsets coming from every region, actually, right? You know, we saw, and I want to talk about this, like Order Gaming ended up losing to who did they lose to? Atletico.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was I mean, and Atletico is a team. I think that they came through trials. They definitely. The organization was dead last season. They didn't win a single series. This season, they're doing a lot better for themselves, obviously, with a few new players. But there's no world in which Order should be losing to Atletico. And actually, even this week, they won 3-2 against Legacy. So even that was, again, another team that came through trials last season, had a season of contenders under their belt now. And yet, Order's only winning 3-2 against them in a situation where Order has not made any changes since being the reigning champs in Australian contenders. Obviously, they went to Gauntlet and things didn't really work out there. So maybe there's something to be said for that. Maybe they have some internal friction. I don't know what's going on necessarily there, but definitely hasn't been a great season at all for Order. And even like Atletico this week, they lost to Ground Zero. So it's not like Atletico's popping off like crazy. It wasn't Atletico necessarily just totally destroying Order, although that obviously was a factor. I think Order's kind of beating themselves in a way at the moment. So I don't know when that's going to turn around, but I kind of hope it does.
Yeah, we actually saw the other finalist team from Australian contenders, Sydney Drop Airs, lose pretty convincingly.
Yeah, I mean, they're their situation's a little bit different because they have lost a lot of their players.
Yeah.
You know, they've had three out of their 6 players retired, and then one moved to another team, which is now Warriors, the former blank roster. So they've only got 2 of the same members, and then they've brought a couple of imports from Korea. They've got a couple of the players coming through from lower tier teams in AU Contenders, but it doesn't really look like the same roster. And I mean, from what I've seen so far, it doesn't really look like they're going to be able to recapture the greatness that Sydney Drop Bears kind of had in Australian Contenders.
I mean, everywhere is upsets right now, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
is in all the contenders, like in all the contenders regions are upsets happening in Overwatch League.
Overwatch League, yeah.
And it's all the teams that weren't like maybe as comfortable on goats or as good on goats that realized they could just abuse Sombra instead. And it's this is the shift, and people realize that if you play Sombra with Ana instead, they can't really push you. And then people also start playing more DPS, because if you can play Sombra Ana consistently against goats, that also means that your transition out of DPS is a lot easier if you do get forced off. So now it's kind of this point where a lot of teams realize, oh, okay, well, if you can transition out of DPS more often, why not just play DPS more often? And Ana Goats is coming up, and it's kind of everyone's playing a bit more of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, in my opinion, not very indicative of what teams are good or not, because the way EMP works is just certain fights you just lose if they don't fuck up. And it creates scenarios where like a weak team can snowball a strong team, if that makes sense, on a map.
Mm.
And I think if you look at all the upsets that happen, I don't think any upset in Overwatch League happened without Sombra Goats being the winning composition, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think even in that way, it's kind of crazy to even see Clockwork Vendetta still taking these wins. Maybe it's just because their comp is a little bit more refined. I am going to absolutely bonk this guy that's outside my house with the weed whacker. Oh, this is like the worst time to do it too, and I tried to mute myself on the stream. I saw your face, Jordan, as it was going by. It's just like I muted my stream, but I'm still like, oh my god, come on, dude. I guess it's still kind of crazy that Clockwork Vendetta is taking these wins though, and I mean they're really close, right? I don't think Clockwork Vendetta has gotten a clean series. I think every single match has been a game 5. I think, and we got Zyder in the chat. We're talking about his team. Yeah, they're still winning, and it's kind of cool because there's this transition from goats to DPS comps, and you'd think that they would start to fall off because their comp completely counters just goats, but like they're still doing well, and I think it's because they're so refined as a team.
I actually think the Orisa comps are mega good against all the DPS stuff, because the way like Hulk can just delete a squishy, you know, and the way it works is that the Orisa is very hard to kill for the DPS heroes, and the Hulk can either play with the Orisa for hook pulls or just flank around, and you have all these characters that are annoying and that have like a get out of jail for free card, you know, with the ice block or the overload or whatever the little midget guy has. And then what happens is that at some point the Hawk's gonna get a kill, you know, and then you're down one player, and then they have a shield on point, and what are you gonna do? I actually think the DPS comps are like the DPS comps you're seeing that to play against goats that don't work at all against like the Clockwork stuff. And I think Clockwork was actually not that great against the goats until some like balance changes happened, and then like it works, you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree. GetAmazed, do you have anything to say on the subject? Because there's been a bit of upsets coming from NA as well.
I just want to say something about Clockwork Orange. I really think like why they are that good. It's just because I just feel like there is like a group of like friends having fun together against people being triggered as fuck. Like,
For sure.
like for me, Clockwork Orange, I just imagine guys playing like this. Like, okay, bro, I'm gonna hook right now. I'm flanking. Ah, look at this guy, you know. And in front, you have like everybody sweating and being like, "Oh, there is a top in front of me. You know? Help me!" You know.
Mhm.
And yeah, I really think that's the main reason why everybody is choking against them. Like because those guys has like they are having fun, and in front like everybody is trying out. I mean they are just like pissed, and you can just see like every official, like every players, like at the end they put a tweet and they say, "Oh my god, it was so tough. I'm exhausted," and stuff like this.
Yeah.
I just think like if players go with the right mindset, maybe they can like beat them. But like I just think like if you go to like a really long match against them, you will get pissed. You go into a depression. I think.
It's a very upsetting thing to play against all these like escape abilities,
Mm.
and there's this hook pool where it's like at like if you're playing a character without an escape ability, if you're not playing like Genji or Tracer, but you're just playing like a regular ass character, and sometimes there's just nothing you can do, and it's such a dumb feeling. It's like the same feeling as when you get headshot by a widow or something,
Mm.
like
Nothing you can do. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
But yeah, I really think like they trigger like every opponent every time.
yeah.
Like imagine like being a big tank with a big shield getting destroyed by a little dwarf. I mean, this thing is.
little midget guy apparently. that's the call out from Jona
I mean,
here.
I'm pretty sure like everybody is really frustrating when they play against this team. Like it's just like I just think like it's a group of like good friends having fun together, and they are all extremely good like mechanically. And you say they don't scream, right? They don't scream.
No, I think they
No.
scrimmed. I heard they scrimmed like a couple of blokes, and I think it's because they started having a bit of trouble against a couple comps, so
Yeah.
they wanted to like try like one or two things before an official. But they
Mm.
don't really like they don't like practice. They just like they do one scrim
Yeah.
and they try something. That at least that's from what I've understood
Yeah.
from.
I just imagine like I mean the guys are just having fun and playing their heroes,
Yeah,
and they're saying, oh, maybe you can try this in official,
I
and I
mean
mean they are
it's mega
winning.
understandable. They've spent all this time, all these comp seasons, just playing this one character, and
Yeah.
there is something to say for it, like the depth of knowledge you get with like all like tricks and gimmicks you can do with a hero.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm.
like it's valuable, and I think it shows why maybe why maybe it's not good to try to make every character viable to a certain
Mm.
level, because if you make every character viable, you're gonna have this type of stuff, but then with even weirder heroes, you're gonna have Simontrix and who
Oh
knows
my
what.
Yeah.
And it
It's a whole
I
can of worms, man.
I
yeah, I don't like it.
I
maybe
don't know if you want
maybe
to get into that.
maybe if every character was viable and if specific comps were like actually really good, like we would see more individualization when it comes to specific players. You know, maybe players are just going to start picking their comfort picks. That certainly seems like that's what's happening against Clockwork Vendetta compositions, where you're just playing what you're good at, DPS wise. But yeah, there's this meme potential where Clockwork Vendetta are so comfortable, and they're just having
Yeah,
fun. And I've been in a couple of their watch parties. They have so much fun, and they come into the Discord, the match afterwards, and they're all talking and laughing with each other, and the fans
yeah,
and everything. It's all just like
yeah,
a fun thing to them. I actually have confirmation from Minimi saying we had like 3 scrims so far, so that's
yeah,
insane.
Just don't say it. Don't say
Mhm.
it. Just say you
yeah.
scream every day. I mean, you can say it, so people are more like frustrated now when they lose against you.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I actually no, I don't know. I think they're mega good. they're mega good at their hero, and I think I think they've earned respect for a lot of other people that want Turk, with what they've been doing. Wait,
Mhm.
hello? Oh, okay, no, sorry. I
Yeah.
thought two people were saying things, but I just couldn't hear it. I think they've earned like respect for like a lot of other people that are like one Turking and like
Yeah.
kind of showing, because I think there's been a cult, like kind of a ladder culture where people that play on teams will oftentimes talk rough shit to people that want trick heroes and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that. They were basically the rejects because they were one trick, so they were getting a lot of
Yeah,
flame from the
and
community individually.
to be fair, they were a bunch of assholes six stacking with their own tricks. Like,
That's
Oh
true.
yeah, clockwork.
like let's be realistic.
Jonah, you sound
Like, is
personally
one.
offended.
I mean, if you're six stacking with a bunch of antics, like you deserve to step on a Lego or some shit, man. That's not right. Like, I respect all of them for how good they are at their hero and for how good they're doing as a team. But when you're six stacking as a bunch of antics, man, you deserve to step on a fucking Lego or something.
They're in the chat, by the way.
I mean, it's not like I say it and I wouldn't
Yeah.
say it to their face. I said it. I would say it to their face.
Well, that's really spicy. I think Neri's really glad that she got you one here. No.
Yeah. I mean, but like I said, it's not like I hate them and I do respect them, but I think it's also worth to mention that when stick sacking was possible, and not just these guys, by the way, anyone that was six stacking, and there's a lot of them, man.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not gonna sit there calling everyone out, but there are some players in EU ranked that, man, you six stacking at 4 a.m. with your whole team, like, come
I
on,
know.
man.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh my god.
It's like how important is your SR to you, man? Like, come on.
Mhm. Oh
I
god,
mean,
that
I
is
remember
hysterical.
even me. I was so pissed last time. I mean, like it was maybe 2 seasons
Yeah.
ago. I was playing against like this tag. I think it was Clockwork Bonetta. And I was
Uh-huh.
so pissed. Like I was doing my solo queue, and I wanted just to do my DK games, and
Yeah.
I'm playing Diva in front like of those guys. Like it was a fucking nightmare. And I remember like I think it was my team. He was like teabagging everybody with his hog. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, fuck you. Like I'm so pissed. Like this guy is
And then
this guy is
okay,
staggered.
and then you have these guys, right? Then you have these guys that lose against the six, like, right? And they like, and they start messaging their friends, and they go sniping the other six stack. Now, and then you get them in your game, and you're like, come on, man, why are you six stacking? Yesterday I was hanging out with you, and you were bashing on six stackers just like me. And he's like, yeah, well, me and my bros are just trying to snipe the other six stack, man. Nothing we can do that they get you in your game. That's so weak, man.
Oh my god, we got some copy pasta in the chat from
That
Shock.
is so weak.
They said, I bet Jonah wanted to six stack with CV as well, but got declined for being too flexible. Oh my god. It's really viral now too. Oh god.
I mean, to be fair, like, in a way, I don't blame the players. I blame more that it's possible to six stack and that it was possible for so long to six stack. Like, in a
Mhm.
way, you can only be so mad at someone abusing the system, but in the
That's
end,
true.
it's not the fault of the person using it, but the fault of the system.
Yeah. Don't hate the player, hate the game, hate the system. Yeah, I agree. Um I want to get into slightly the diverging meta in NA because I know that I think personally, in my opinion, we've seen Skyfoxes run Sombra, and I know through scrims that they've been playing predominantly Sombra goats, but also a lot of teams have been trying to get into it as well. It looks like Second Win are really proficient in it. They had a really good game against Triumph yesterday. They just like, oh my god, their Sombra goats is so clean, and
Can I say one more
yeah.
thing on
Go
like
ahead.
you just said? Because there's a lot of stuff about the Clockwork Vendetta guys, and they're getting a lot of like attention. But what I think is kind of sad is that like because you have like a Torb one trick and a Mei one trick and a Hulk one trick, and they're all like doing things, and people are amazed. But I think the most scary part of their core is their support players. That like you have Monk Mutta that is not only mega good on Ana, but that is flexing to like Widow and Hanzo and playing against these contenders players and just dominating. And also Zaiter, like he's this guy is playing solo heal against all like 7,000 different comps every time, and it's working. Like I feel like it's easy to look at like the Torb running around with his little hammer, but the most scary part about that team is almost their backline, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of nuts how they're able to juggle healing, and then Monk Mutta has been popping off. Just he seems so comfortable.
Yeah.
And there was an actual interview. I want to shout out to Blank, who had an interview with Monk Mutta. Dude just seems super comfortable. Like he just wants to play snipers. So it's one of those things.
Yeah,
Like...
I mean that's when you get this guy in ranked, he's not playing Hannah, and he's picking Widow and Hanzo every game. Like.
Yeah. It's like, Zydor, you're just gonna solo heal for the rest of the game. You okay with that? All right, bro. Good luck with Mercy. just like good luck, bro. Kind of tough, to be honest, but yeah, having to juggle that amount of resources is got to be crazy. I think the biggest upset when it comes to NA has actually, and I hope you don't take too much offense to this, GetAmazed, but I think it's you guys. I think you guys have been doing ridiculously well in your matches. What do you think?
I really think nobody expects us like at this level. I mean, I just feel like we have like really good players, and they just need to know what they have to do, and they just lack of experience. And every day, like those players like are playing. I mean, they are like working extremely hard. Like they are really like how can I say that? Curious, you know, like they don't sit here and wait for any answers. And I mean, every time like they are looking for any match to learn something. And even like the coaching staff, I mean, not talking about me, but the coaching staff is really good. Bizenit is a really great coach. I mean, I'm having so much fun working with this guy. We have Ju Young as well. He's extremely good. And yeah, I think we are doing really great for the moment. And yeah, I really hope like we can make some more surprise, especially like in 2 days. I mean tomorrow.
Yeah.
Against Glads, yeah.
Feels like it's in 2 days. Today's
yeah. It's 1 day.
Grunto Esports is kind of like the core of the Chicken Contendies
It
lineup, right?
was
Yep.
Chicken Contendies, but like
Yeah.
the org just gets the lineup.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk
And
about how it became Grunto, if you don't mind?
When I joined the team, it was already Grunto, so I don't really know like the whole story. All I can say like I just like I had like little small talk with like some guys from the org, and like they are already nice. It's if I'm not saying something wrong, it's like a military org. Like they are all veterans. They were, like everybody was in the army in this team, and it's
Yep.
really funny. Like because like when you hear them talking, you can feel like you're talking to a soldier. Like they say copy that and stuff like that. You know, I'm just feeling like I'm playing to a Counter Strike bot. You know, I'm talking to a Counter Strike bot. Like when you say copy that and stuff like this. And yeah, like I'm having really like a lot of fun working with those guys. Like they're really dedicated, and yeah, I think we're gonna do great. And yeah.
Yeah,
Good check that.
all the Grunto people seem extremely professional, and yeah, I definitely agree. You guys are.
When did Tizzy join you guys?
When I joined TZ already, he was already there. This guy is, I mean, I've played with a lot of main tanks. Super Pluk was really good. Nox was extremely good as well. I mean, Benbet was extremely good, but this guy TZ, like, he's really insane. Like, to be honest, he's really insane.
What is like feeling wise the difference if you would have to say between like
I just feel like I mean I think he got like way more opportunity to shine because he like his English is not that great, so he don't come a lot, and usually like every main tank leads the game, say go like right here, I push on left or thing like that. But this guy, like, he just focused on his gameplay. So, like, I mean, I just can feel like he just like smurfing in contenders for the moment. Like this guy
Yeah.
just destroying people.
But like,
Like,
what if you like, because like for example, like, what do you think like playstyle wise, or like kind of
mm,
like intention for like what's the difference between, because I think Korean main tanks are have generally been like really impressive every time they've like when Stand One was playing with the Envy guys, he was playing
mm.
mega good. Then
Yeah, I just think like it's not about like mechanics and stuff. It's just about maybe
yeah
knowledge, and they know exactly like what's their limits. Like, for example, like sometimes you can feel like maybe he's overextending and maybe he's swinging too much, but
yeah
he know what he's doing, and like I mean I mean especially like I just feel like every Korean tanks, they are like so good on primal rage. Like their primal
yeah
rage mechanics is just insane. And this thing, I just think like it's because of like the dedication they put into Overwatch. I mean, for example, uh like we will say like a random EU player, like after our match he will say, okay, I'm gonna chill out, I'm gonna take a break, I'm gonna eat something and watch some Netflix and stuff like this. But for example, like a Korean, he will say, "We finish, okay, I'm gonna queue in camp, or I'm gonna watch against the VOD and stuff like this." Like they
hmm
just never stop working. Like I mean, when they have like one ambition, like once they wanna like be great at something, they put it like they put everything to make it happen.
yeah
So yeah, I think it's only about dedication and hard work. Like there is no
mm,
secret. Like they are not like more talented than stuff. Like that's a lie saying like I mean, if people say like Korean DPS or Korean tanks are like stronger mechanically and stuff, that's a lie. They just like work harder. That's it.
yeah. I was just wondering if there was like also a kind of like a mindset part of like kind of like where
Um,
like for example back in the day, like in dive meta for example, and NA main tanks were kind of this like, I'm just gonna dive and that's what I'm gonna do. And then
yeah,
when you had the EU monkeys that were more like, "All right, I'm gonna sit there and maybe counter
yeah.
dive more, or like look more to just take space and stuff
It
like
was
that." Like,
Crisper. Crisper was doing this a lot. I remember back in the day. Crisper was every time flanking and
mhm.
like he was dropping on your backline and you were saying
Yeah,
where the fuck he came from and yeah, it was really funny.
yeah.
And yeah, I just think the thing is maybe I mean I'm just gonna say EU because I mean I
Mhm.
used to play a lot of in EU, but I think in EU we see Overwatch like a FPS, so we say, oh, what the fuck Mei is doing in a FPS, what the fuck Winston is doing in FPS.
Mhm.
I just think in Korea it's not the same thing. They don't play Overwatch like that.
Mhm.
They take it in a different aspect and they don't think about like it's a FPS. They think about every small details, every small corners when where you can play with and stuff like this. That's why I think they are like strong
Mhm.
and smarter
Mm.
sometimes. But yeah,
Yeah,
like I said,
FPS is not that popular in
yeah,
Korea.
yeah, like I said, there is no like no secret. Like they are not stronger. I mean, we are all, I mean, born in the same way. They just
Yeah.
like work harder. That's it.
I actually
Yeah.
think it's kind of a redemption story for TZ. I don't know if
Mm.
you guys remember, but the last team that he was on was Guangzhou Academy,
London, yeah.
and like I don't mean any offense, but they were not at the top of the standings for Chinese contenders. They were
Mm.
at the bottom, and they got relegated. And we actually just got news last night that Guangzhou Academy is going to be sponsoring or basically taking over T1W, which has been a really dominant Chinese contenders team. That to me is really exciting because that org has been around in Chinese contenders for a very long time. So it's good for that org to be encompassed by like an academy team. It's really cool to see these like full grown teams just be absorbed by Overwatch League teams, right, as academies. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
For sure. Like um I think it's really hard to create an academy team of a full new roster. I think
Mm-hmm.
it is good to take some kind of core, because what you see with Paris in Europe is that you take six players that individually, I think they probably could have all made an academy team, you know, in the right circumstances. But they have to kind of build a team from scratch, and I think it is difficult. I think there's a lot of value in picking up a core where you know this core is successful. It's the same with like the struggle that Samsung has is with these complete roster overhauls every time. Like what Samsung tries to do in Europe is like they're an org with good money, right? So they have a decent amount of people to pick from. Like they have good players to pick from. Like uh, back in the day, they even got like some Korean players and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
They had two lineups, yeah.
Yeah. So
Samsung Blue and
they have budget, but instead of like
Mhm.
working to build something, they kind of want to buy something, and I think that's a mistake. And I think it's a mistake academy teams are making as well, where you can't just buy 6 players and expect to have a team. And I think especially the Western side of things seems to underestimate how important like the team aspect is, and you see it as well with a team like Vancouver coming into Overwatch League, being a team for so long, and how well they're doing, and all the other teams that are doing well in Overwatch League currently are also uh, teams that have a core that has previously played together. Like NYXL, Shock, all exist from a core that was playing last season together.
Mhm.
And the teams that were doing well last season together, Spitfire and NYXL, existed from a core that was playing in Apex together. Like, is ridiculously underestimated how important this team aspect is. And it's ridiculously overestimated how you can just get 6 good players and have a good team.
Mhm.
Uh, you see it go wrong a lot in contenders and a lot in Overwatch League, and there is no coach that can just tell 6 players, okay, this is how you play the game. You have to build that.
Yeah.
Mm. I
Very
think that's
true.
that's specific in esports. Like every time we just want to get the strongest player. I mean, I really prefer like a team with like really low individual plays, but with a really huge team play. So the thing is like, especially in this current meta, like the team play is like way more important than the individual play. So I'm pretty sure like, okay, maybe it's too much, but I'm pretty sure like an open division team which play like really good together can destroy like a contenders team, like for sure, because a lot of aspects like the intensity in games, the team play, the fact that they are playing together and stuff like this. And yeah, about Paris, yeah, I mean it was like, I mean they just took like 6 players like from nowhere. Like the back lane never played together, the front lane is the same.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, the players are really good. I just think like the way they
Yeah.
pick up players was really bad. And yeah,
Yeah.
it was a big mistake.
It's
I
interesting
think
to talk about something like that, like after the fact. But I think coming into the season, a lot of people were hyped for Paris, and they had a lot of expectations that they do decently. At least that's my opinion.
wait, you mean the in Overwatch League or in contenders?
Are you talking about Eternal Academy or?
But
Yeah,
well,
we're
kind of
talking about.
ironically, it applies to both kind of. But
Yeah, it
yeah, we
does.
were. I think yeah. I think
Mm.
we were talking about how the academy team kind of fell like out of contenders,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the Overwatch League team as well. Like I think they're all great players, but they are all from different places. All from like completely different places.
Mm.
And I think it shows with how much trouble they've had building into this season. And I don't think it's the fault of having weak players. I think it's the thing that you can't expect to beat teams that have been playing together for maybe 2 years with the lineup that you just put together yesterday.
True.
Like when they were scrimming early on, they had all these top players that like if you put them on any team in contenders, you'd be like, okay, that's a sick pickup, right? Like that's a sick player to have on your team.
Mm-hmm.
But and yet all these players individually were not winning scrims in Europe from the contenders teams, and it's just because they haven't been a team for that long. And even now, like competing in Overwatch League, the all these new teams like Guangzhou is completely like put together from random players as well, and Atlanta is maybe the exception. They're doing all right, but even
Mm-hmm.
they have like their tank duo that like the Dako Pokpo like core, I guess.
Mm-hmm. True.
I don't know. I think it's severely underestimated, the
Yeah.
synergy and this team building stuff.
Yeah, and people most of the time like they just like to like when the team is not like doing well, instead of just like keep working together and building synergy and stuff, they just like
Mhm.
kick the player and bring a new one. That's not
Yeah.
a solution. I really think it's a bad solution. Like when it's not, I mean, I just think like the only reason why you can kick a player is like when the guy is not like being professional and being late and stuff like this. But you cannot kick a player because like the team is losing. Just like do some VOD review, work with him, and yeah, build something with him.
Yeah.
But you cannot just like yeah,
As long as someone shows like motivation to improve, I think it's usually possible to improve as long as you show the willingness and motivation.
yep. I mean, for me, I think I'm a good example for that. Like before Eagle Gaming, I had like zero like experience as a team, and
Mhm.
I was like doing like 6 hours of streams at the beginning, and after that I was doing like 3 or 4 hours of VOD every day.
Wow.
So yeah, I really think it's all about dedication,
Yeah.
and yeah, like kicking a player like it's not the solution. Just you just have to work harder. That's it. I
Hmm.
mean, if you it just like imagine like you're walking a stairs, like you are on the middle of the stairs, and you say, oh, it's too bad. So let's change the stairs, and you go back again, like, and you walk again and again. I mean, this is really bad. Just keep walking, even if it's hard, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. I think we'll move on to the next topic shortly because I want to get into Q&As. We have a lot of questions coming out, guys. Make sure to submit your questions in either the Twitch chat or in our Discord. We have Neri, who is thankfully taking care of all of the question amalgamation. Last topic is going to be the 222 lock, the potential 222 lock. It seems to have been like pretty much confirmed, but the rumor is that it's probably going to start during the gauntlet and not during contenders or contenders playoffs. What do you guys think about the lock? Are you guys all in on it? We'll start with Elfishguy.
I'm tentatively for it. I think there's definitely, I mean, it's definitely an interesting discussion, right? Isn't it? I think it does potentially fix a lot of the issues that's happening within Overwatch at the moment, even to an extent with the casual player base, maybe feeling disenfranchised with ranked games and that kind of thing, and not being able to get your role, etc., that sort of stuff. So I think that could be an advantage in that respect. When it comes to competitive, I am a little bit hesitant to say that I would be overly excited for it because I feel like, what if someone just figures it out again? Like let's say they figure out the next goats. It's the next goats, but it's the 222 goats, and it's the 222 setup that beats everything, and that's all we get to see again. And then you're stuck in a 222, and no one can play anything else. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to take 6 months before we can really say, hey, it's good or B, it's bad.
I actually think we're kind of there, at least with certain compositions in Korea. They're already starting to. I mean, Element Mystic has already been playing Doomfist Sombra goats for a while. I don't know if I guess that's not really goats anymore, but it's that Doomfist Sombra
Well, yeah,
with
that's that.
the
When does it
Reinhardt.
stop becoming goats? That's the question.
Yeah,
It's like when 2 out of 6 of the heroes are different. It's not necessarily
Yeah.
the same team.
but so many of the
I
other
think-
Korean teams are scrimming with that composition as well, and I think that's going to be the comp personally. That's going to change everything.
Again, and sure, maybe let's assume in this instance that is. Does that make for good viewing? Does that make for good playing? If everyone's playing that against each other all the time,
No.
So
But
then we're in still the same situation as we are with 3-3.
I think what is really important about 222 look is how much easier it becomes to balance the game
Mm.
when you don't have to worry so much about overlapping heal auras or tanks that do too much damage and can be played as a DPS hero. For example, Hog used to do an incredible amount of damage, but he was not as much of a tank hero, right? Like he still does a lot of damage, but like back when his right click would just like just one shot stuff, and and he would like do a lot of damage to tanks. Like in the state he was in back then, he did as much damage as a DPS hero. He was just beefier.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that design was not that, or maybe Hawk was broken regardless. But the problem with a design like that is that you can just play it instead of a DPS hero. You don't have to sacrifice bubbles or matrix or some supportive aspect of having a tank in order to get this damage increase from the tank. And I think balance-wise for Blizzard, it'll be a lot easier to kind of make good heroes and make good balance and create interesting metas if we are forced into 2-2-2. So Brig as more of a damage dealing support, not healing as much, more focused on damage and disabling, could be fine if you would have to sacrifice a defensive ult, or if you had to sacrifice speed boost for it, or something like that, so that there's another aspect that the enemy team can then abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, like Brig might have been fine on release with her ridiculously broken shield bash one-shot on Tracer and all that stuff. Maybe that would have been fine if you had to sacrifice other stuff for it.
Yeah.
The reason all of these things have been so incredibly broken in Overwatch, the same for the 4-tank meta that was going on, the triple tank meta that was going on for a while, and then basically anything, is the way that you can overlap things. It's the same with when in the end of AL you had the triple tank with Orisa the sniper comps with like 3 tanks, and then you had and the Diva Matrix, but also the pull hook combo. Like, I think the important thing to realize is that with 2-2-2 lock, you can sacrifice more things and also make certain things stronger that normally you couldn't. So I think sure, there might become a still meta, but I think it's going to be so much easier for Blizzard to tweak things and change things without breaking the game when there's 2-2-2. It's the same kind of the same argument in favor of hero bans, where if you enable hero bans, regardless of what it does to the meta, it makes it very much so impossible to completely break the game by releasing a hero or buffing something, because you can always ban it. And it's kind of similar to what happens when you roll them.
I actually personally love the whole concept of the pick and ban phase, like in a lot of other esports. Shout out to Star Esports, which was formerly the Watchers Brawl that I actually cast for. They have like a pick and ban system, and it works fairly well because, you know, if you don't want the enemy team to play goats. Okay, so the formula is if you lose a map, you get a ban. But before that, the enemy team gets a save. So they can save a hero, but then of course you can ban a hero. So like Lucio and Brig are really good bans coming into that, because it's like you can disable 3-3 just with one of those bans. Yeah. Like they can't really save it because you can just ban either Brig or Lucio. And so that really works kind of in that way. But I definitely agree that, you know, coming into this next season, I think they're going to do some balancing. If 2-2 lock is going to be a thing for everyone globally, we're going to be seeing some drastic changes for these heroes, because like you're saying, I don't think, and I think this is what you're saying, I think Brig is a little underpowered if she's just with a secondary support and not with a tertiary support. You know, I actually think she's quite weak if she's just with an Ana. You know.
Yeah.
What does that say about DPS at the moment then?
I actually think that DPS have been pretty buffed significantly. Like we're looking at Reaper buffs, and I think Hanzo's in a good spot.
I don't even like all these DPS buffs trying to kill this tank meta. Like I think a lot of DPS heroes should be niche and are incredibly frustrating if they're meta. Like Sombra is ridiculously frustrating to play against, and it's if the meta develops into only Sombra stuff, it's the worst thing you'll ever experience in your life, because it becomes like the most gimmicky way of playing possible. It's all about who can trick the other team into getting destroyed by an EMP the best, and it's like it's terrible. And it's the same. I don't know. It's like I hope they just start accepting the idea of niche picks rather than trying to make everything viable everywhere.
I agree to that.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to cater to the casual fan base, which is like, I like Mei, I want to play Mei, you know.
Yeah.
I main Mercy, so please make Mercy able to be viable, because then you get that portion of the fan base, and they're quite loud when their hero isn't really buffed or nerfed, and they're the ones going to be complaining about it nonstop. And we're kind of getting to a point where the heroes that a lot of people main are like kind of viable or like decently viable, so there's not too many complaints right now. What do you guys think, like generally from the community? I don't think there's much to complain about from a casual perspective.
I mean, I think
it's fine.
if you're from a casual perspective, you're probably not making the full usage of the hero to begin with. So whether it's buffed or nerfed probably makes zero difference to you as even as a 3000 player, right? Like,
True.
Unless you're literally at the peak of, like, I'm pretty garbage at Overwatch. I've never been past 3400. If I pick up Tracer with the old Pulse Bomb buff and I'm versing Jona with the Pulse Bomb nerfs, he's still gonna absolutely destroy the shit out of me. So like, I don't think it really necessarily matters when you're considering casual versus
Hey man,
professional.
don't undersell yourself, man. Like,
Oh, maybe I'll get lucky. You might recall into my Pulse Bomb.
That's the
I just
ultimate.
want to go back on. I just want to go back on something like about the 2-2-2. I just think like they put the 2-2-2 just to counter. I mean, just because like every viewers and stuff are complaining about the goats. I think, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that's the main reason.
By and large, yes, yeah.
And I really think like even Blizzard don't understand why goats is really strong, and a lot of people don't really understand why goats is really strong. I don't know what for you. What do you? Why? I mean, what's the main reason why goats is that strong for you guys?
Healing auras
What's the
OP
reason?
generally.
What? Sorry.
Healing auras are OP generally.
Uh, for us, like we talk a lot about goats in Eagle Gaming, and I mean everybody say, "Oh, Zaya is OP, Diva is OP, and stuff like this. Brig is OP," but I swear, the main problem with goats is Lucio. He's the one who's giving like to big, like
Yep.
big tank like mobility, and this is the main reason why goats is really strong. And I think like instead of like buffing DPS and stuff, you can maybe, I mean, it's gonna be like maybe look stupid, but you can maybe like deny Lucio for being that much like giving that much speed boost to your tanks. And the main reason why everybody, I mean, why Goats is that strong is just about Lucio. It's not about Diva or Brig or whatever.
Mhm.
It's just Lucio. And I mean, every time when I see like a patch note, I see this guy is good getting buff and stuff. I mean, just nerf Lucio, and this thing will not happen.
I mean,
I mean,
they
if
did nerf Lucio.
They already kind of, yeah.
A bit recently with the speed R. I do think that made goats weaker against CPS stuff. It's become harder to kind of just punish people that get close, and it's become easier to kind of play without Lucio against goats stuff. I don't know. I think in the end, like, there's so many things that they want to like do, you know. They want everything to be good for the casuals. They want every hero to feel fun and interactive. This is a big problem, or not problem necessarily, but this is a big reason why the game is how it is because Blizzard wants every hero to feel strong and impactful. And this means that even if you have a support hero with a relatively bland kit heal wise, he will have to get something else that makes him fun and rewarding. And I don't know. It's just I think Blizzard has made it mega difficult for themselves to balance the game.
Yeah.
It just not only about it. I really think like because like from my experience on World of Warcraft, I don't know if you guys played this game a bit in PvP, but like at the beginning, like the game was like really like really difficult. Like in PvP, like you need a lot of mechanics and stuff, and like every years when they are changing stuff, they make it like easier for every casual players. So they buff something, they nerf something, and I really think they are doing the same thing for Overwatch. At the beginning, like you could see like big outplay, big mechanic skills and stuff, and now you see like everybody. I mean, it sounds stupid, but everybody can play a diva. I mean, just Matrix. Like, I mean, I know what I'm saying. I play this hero, but I mean,
I mean, everyone can play at a basic level. Like,
yeah. I mean,
the skill floor versus ceiling.
easy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's easy like for everyone to at least like play it like at a middle level, I say. But I mean, just put a diamond diva in front of a GM diva and make her 1v1. You don't see the difference. Now put a GM widow against a GM a diamond widow. You will see like the guy is getting spawn camp like really hard, and that's why
Not
I
everyone's
really
meant to
think
play highly mechanical characters, though. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You have to cater to both audiences as well.
Mhm.
I'm not a hugely mechanical player, so has to be
But
something.
I think overall, like they are trying to make like Overwatch easier to play, if that makes sense. But I don't know.
I mean,
I do think with like the Brigade and Moira and like these heroes are like specifically designed so you can play something that's not Mercy and that doesn't have to like 1v1 a flanker in order to
Mhm.
survive. Like it is true that they're trying to create a game that is both playable for the weaker mechanical players as well as the stronger ones. I just don't know if they're doing it in the right way. But I think with this rollout, at least it will be easier to balance out.
Yeah.
I
Well,
definitely
I don't think
agree.
anyone's necessarily complaining about Moira, but a lot of people complaining about Brig. So you just have to do it in a way that like you can still be viable, but you can't completely shut down the game, even if you're an inferior player playing on a quote unquote easier character.
I mean, Moira was or is still a big reason why Goats is a, or I don't know so much now with Bob because you can kind of play Bob Teast instead of Brig against some of the DPS stuff, but Moira was a big reason why you could stay on Goats no matter what. You know, if they had a bunch of DPS, you could go Moira, spray your P on everyone, and you could it's so hard to kill Moira. And I think like a lot of what makes Goat so strong is that there's like they found a solution to everything. You know, there's no thing that definitely makes you switch, and I think Goats wouldn't be so problematic if there wasn't this I don't know there's solution to
Was that not
every.
the concept of Overwatch when it first came out? Was that like, okay, if they play X, we play Y, and then if they play Y, we play Z. And if they play Z, we play A. And we keep
Yeah.
sort of rotating, but then
Yep.
people kind of figured it out, and then people got better at certain heroes and certain compositions, etc., etc. And then obviously ult are so important as well. So
Yeah.
then swapping was less. What's the word for it? You didn't want to swap,
Yeah.
so to
Yeah.
speak. So then that kind of counterpicking and counterplay became less of a factor, as opposed to,
Yeah.
oh, they're on Pharah, I'm going to play Soldier or McCree.
The whole thing in the start was people were playing DPS comps, but then you would figure out some form of goats that would force them to switch, and then they would be on goats, but you would have ults, and that meant that you could just run over them for a couple fights and farm more ults, and they would do nothing. Even though they won maybe the first 3 fights on a map playing their DPS comp, they still wouldn't win because you would have built ults, and when they finally were forced to switch, they were then screwed for the rest of the map. And I don't know. I kind of wish they would redesign ults to make them less impactful, but I don't see it ever happening.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Like, does it come back down to that
Yeah.
argument as opposed to even
Yeah.
then, like, does a 2-2-2 locks not necessarily solve the same thing? You know,
Yeah.
then you need to go and nerf ults, and then like if you nerf ults, then you totally take away the, like the concept of any given
Yeah.
character. Like, let's say Zai, you take Graviton Surge Wave, or you nerf it to the point where it's not what it is anymore. It's like, I mean, I guess you've still got bubbles, right?
You
It's
just have to,
probably
you have
still
to direct, you have to direct hit
But-
someone with your grab.
You know what I mean? Like, or what if like EMP doesn't exist? Then what is someone doing? It's just like you kind of ruin a hero in a sense, or someone's gonna feel like you've ruined their favorite hero, and then there's gonna be a lot of angry people. So
I don't know. My favorite heroes are the ones that like Ana with like Nano is kind of like it can be a very strong ult, but it's not like if an enemy team has Nano, you lose. Like or same with Pulse Bomb or like all these like smaller ults. I like those heroes the most actually.
yeah. I mean, I never really felt like, again, I'm not a professional player and I'm not hugely intellectual when it comes to Overwatch, but watching Tracer Pulse Bombs before the nerf, I never felt like that was an overbearing ability, so to speak. So
It became a bit like people figured out that you just farm pulse bombs and then just kill a tank, and it became a bit stupid at some point, especially because people were playing Zen, and then you would just discord a tank, and no matter what his HP was, like he would just be dead from the pulse bomb. So it became a little bit stupid at like super high level, but anywhere below that, it was fine. I think the nerf is kind of okay, but I kind of agree with what you're saying though, like.
but like less impactful ultimates as opposed to things like an EMP, which is almost like
Yeah,
well, to win the fight.
it's like the worst. EMP grab, like
Your face, Jona.
yeah, it's disgusting. It's so disgusting to like walk into like you all just died. You come out of the spawn and you get EMP just and you all die again. And then the other effect with the way ults work is that from that EMP, the rest of the team all got
Build
their
salts.
little ultimates up, and then you get grabbed, and then you die again, and it's like it's so stupid, and there's so little like the counterplay to a lot of these big ults is someone else just going on their keyboard like fucking like pressing their Q button, and it's so dumb, man. Like it like the best fights in Overwatch are the vanilla fights. Like the best like skill in Overwatch is the fights without ults in the start. You know, how do you kill someone? How do you kill someone without using an ult? How do we kill this person without pressing our Q buttons? And the moment the game develops from that point into the which Q button do we press now is when the game becomes like
Yeah.
You can feel that Jona is playing against a lot of sombras in his stream.
Honestly, I liked back in the day before Overwatch competitive was really a thing, and you were watching like Pharah, Mercy, Soldier, those kinds of interactions when like no one even knew how to use their ults really. And
Honestly,
I
so
enjoyed
similar
that.
that,
That's still my favorite meta. But again, I didn't really play it.
Sombra is
I
just a
watched it.
nightmare. I remember when I used to be a player, like when at the beginning when everybody was starting playing this hero, I was playing Diva, and you know, like every Sombra when I asked the Diva to get EMP,
Yeah, what am I
and
doing?
oh my god, and I was so pissed every time because I was so bad and my aim was so bad I couldn't like click on the Sombra to cancel the hack, and I was getting hacked every time, and like I was just like giving away an EMP every 10 seconds. It was, oh my god, I was so pissed.
All right. Well, I think we actually already answered one of the questions from the Q&A, which was thoughts on ultimate nerfs. Like we've directly talked about that, which was crazy.
Let's go.
Shout out to Brolympic for answering that question, but I guess you didn't even need to ask it because we got you, man. We'll be getting to our Q&A, and I don't want to take forever because I'm just seeing from Crandop that Jona has some scrims in a little bit, and I actually have I got to go to work, so we won't take too long with these, but I have a couple questions from Discord. It's me, Chris. For Elfishguy, this is a really good one for like casting. Any tips on making a show reel for casting, and for your first paid gig? For your first paid gig casting, what's a good rate to charge? His in parentheses, I've casted for a few months now, but I'm not sure how to make how to best make a show reel or what to charge for casting.
I've never had a show reel, so I think that you don't necessarily need a show reel. You can just use a VOD, in most cases at least. For like I at ESL Australia, I'm handling a lot of the talent. So when we are bringing new talent in or trying to find new talent, it's usually falling on me to source that. And I don't ask for a show reel. I ask for a VOD 9 times out of 10. I just like to see some previous work, and that's usually enough for me to get a bit of a bearing as to where you're at as a commentator. So I don't necessarily think a show reel is as important as you may think that it is. As far as figuring out what the first rate you should charge is, it's a bit more of a difficult question because that can kind of have a lot of factors involved. Again, like you said, you've had a bit of experience, but like how much have you done live events before? Have you done professional broadcasts before? What kind of scale of an event are you working for your first paid gig? You know, like if it's just, again, if it's an online broadcast, something like this, you know, you may charge a lower rate than you would naturally for a live event or for a larger scale event. So I think that's a bit more of a can of worms that you can't necessarily answer without more specific information.
Okay, let's say I'm trying to generalize here. Let's say he never tried something at LAN, like never casted something at LAN. He's been casting for a few months now, and he's the gig is something online as well. So he's like casting a tournament.
I think for at least I can only talk really to an Australian perspective because I'm not so sure what the rates are like as a general rule internationally. But here I would probably say anywhere between 100 and 200 Australian dollars would be sort of where you'd, as your base level, if you've never done a paid gig before, I think you'd probably be pretty happy with that for a day's work, you know, 8 hours or so of broadcast. And obviously that's quite a low rate, generally speaking. You'd want to be improving that pretty quickly, but to get your foot in the door in an industry like this where everyone wants to do it, you know, that's kind of what you need to do. So start low, build up, and obviously talk to peers. I think that's the most important thing, is to just talk to people who are at the same level as you or maybe just above you, see what they're charging, and see if you can get away with charging something similar.
Yep.
I mean, isn't it kind of like just a question? It's kind of like a flipping point, right? Like first, a company needs a caster and you're the one that wants that job, and then at some point you kind of go and then it flips and then
They want you.
yes, exactly, and that's
Mhm.
kind of also
So it's very much a balancing act about, do I put my rate a little bit higher and hope that they don't say, oh, you know what, we'll go with someone else,
yeah.
until the point where they have to go with me because I'm so well known or so
Yeah.
famous or etc. But it takes a long time to get to that point, and for the majority of commentators, I think you probably would never get to that point, right?
Yeah.
Because that's only the tier 1 casters. That's only the guys that are doing Overwatch League, the guys that are doing the major finals in Counter Strike or Dota or whatever. Otherwise, in cases like me, for example, there's always someone else. Even though I may be one of the best in Australia, you know, it doesn't take more than a year for me to be replaced if I let my guard down, sort of thing.
Okay, and I want to clarify for that person that was answering the question. I think the conversion was $12 to $15 an hour for that total.
Yeah, I mean,
gig.
I generally don't go by, at least in Australia, we don't generally pay talent by hourly rate anymore. We did usually, and it was sort of sitting around 20 to 25 Australian dollars. Though,
Nice.
to my understanding, Australian minimum wage is quite a bit higher than American minimum wage, or I don't know what it is for Europe, but yeah, that was like just above minimum wage, right? For a commentator. Now it's up to about 25, but generally speaking, we're sort of paying more on the day rate side of things. So regardless of how many hours you're working, for the broadcast you get $250 or $300, or it depends on the scale of the broadcast. For things like IEM Sydney, obviously the rate is quite a bit higher, but for more local lands and that kind of thing, it's a little bit lower. It just depends on the budget. But it's such a different kind of sort of industry, I think, within Australia than it is overseas, because it's so much smaller. There's so much less money. So I may not necessarily be the best person to ask if you're not from Australia. But if you are from Australia, then I mean, feel free to DM me on Twitter. My DMs are open.
Sweet. That's really good. All right, let's do 2 more questions. Question for Jona. Symphony was taken from Twitch chat. Can you break down what happened when Crandop got ambushed by a hurricane?
I mean, Kra was like, I want to play Shatter, and we were like, okay, dude. And then like, he says, like, he's sitting at, I'm standing, you know the bridge on the Savannah map, right? Like on the inside part, there's like a bridge in the middle. I'm standing on this bridge and I look out into all the like entrances of the inside area, and Kraan is sitting at the outside doorway, and Kraan is like, so he's starting to say like, "Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready?" I hear them, and I'm like, I see the other side of the wall and I see nothing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm ready, and then he dies and he's like, oh, I'm dead, and we just laugh and we like reset.
Yeah, I think the whole story was he heard him. He thought they were on the other side of the wall, but they were running towards him, and they were on that side. The footsteps were a bit weird, so he ended up getting so totally. Weird. He just 1v6'd. Yeah. Oh my god!
It was like for like 1 or 2 seconds, it was complete silence in comms because everyone was like, "Oh," and then I just like started laughing, and we went back to spawn. Like. That
was a really cool moment. Actually, if anyone isn't familiar with it, I'll be able to link it in the YouTube video. It was actually retweeted by Overwatch Path to Pro. It was that funny that they decided to retweet it and promote that specific tweet. It was like Metal Gear Solid and everything. That was really good.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. We'll go with something. Well, let's go with something kind of jokey. This question's from Nari Mizuki, who's helping me. She is a co-host for the grind here. Question for all the gets, and we'll start with GetAmazed here. Why do you think the Overwatch scene is so incapable of good banter without it turning into trash talking?
Wait.
I have some opinions on this one.
Like you mean why we cannot trash talk like in Overwatch?
Okay, so the question is, why do you think the Overwatch scene is so incapable of good banter without trash talking?
Oh.
Like, why does it always go to trash talking?
I really don't know. I know I'm really good at it, but only in DMs. I mean, like I mean, that's okay. It's my it's a little experience for me. Like one time I did a LAN. We call it Contenders Final, and someone said before the match it's gonna be easy 4-0 for the Hungry Titans, and we may say nice 4-0 at the end, but that's like without any trash talk, just like yeah, just reiterate with people. So yeah, I don't know like why. I think people are afraid. Like I know, I mean, I'm from like fighting sport, and I know especially like in MMA, we like to trash talk a lot before the fight. Like we like to make jokes and stuff. And when I just came to Overwatch, I mean, I remember like my first week with Eagle Gaming, the social media manager just like he literally destroyed me like on vocal because I did a meme like on Twitter about the enemy team, and I was like it was funny to me, but we cannot do it. So just yeah, I don't know. I'm not the right guy to have this discussion, I think.
Yeah. Elfishguy, I know you have something on this.
Well, I think it's a lot different in Australia, right? Because our
Mhm.
culture itself is literally just shit talking everyone all the time, as
Yeah.
you would have probably seen on Twitter. So maybe a little different, but I think for a general rule, like Overwatch for a lot of professional players seems to be a younger demographic than the likes of Counter Strike or Overwatch, or Dota 2 or StarCraft or whatever, and it may also be like their first competitive title in a professional setting. So I feel like just the younger age and that kind of thing, people aren't quite as comfortable with themselves maybe as they need to be to kind of deal with the banter that's getting thrown around. Give it 2 or 3 years, and I think things will be fine.
Yeah. Jona, any thoughts on banter always
I
turning
think
into shit talking?
I think you can like good
Egos as
ban.
well.
Yeah, uh, good banter is usually when you can feel there's no ego involved, and I think good banter with no ego involved only really happens if you know the other person.
Mm.
Like for example, I can banter ex teammates of my well, right? Like, for example, like anyone I used to play with or was friends with or hung out with, like they can call me anything, like literally anything, and it won't offend me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because everyone is so far away and not everyone knows everyone, it's harder. I think you see it a bit more in the Overwatch League now that the kind of everyone is hanging out at some point in Overwatch League because everyone's meeting each other.
Mm-hmm.
That more people are starting to kind of loosen up and able to kind of trash talk each other, and you see it in Korea as well. In Korea, the
I think
banter in Overwatch is great because everyone is so close together and the community is tight knit.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
That
that's a really
like
good point actually.
yeah.
That's definitely the case in Australia as well, because Overwatch in Australia is such a small community.
Yeah.
There may be only like 300 or 400 people that are like core, like Overwatch Australia esports people. So everyone knows everyone. But I guess you wouldn't get that same thing in NA and EU. Too
Yeah,
many people.
it's also like people know each other, but they come from different cultures. So like sarcasm and like jokes are perceived differently. Like some countries are very sarcastic and they constantly say things they don't mean, and other countries are very just exactly like for example, if you try to banter with a Finnish guy, it's impossible. Like they will seriously respond to everything you're saying, and it's that's kind of like and I think in
Different styles of
America
humor.
maybe a little bit as well with like different states and different cultures. I don't know, but I do think ego is a big part. A lot of players
Mm-hmm.
have a big ego, and it screws them in their career because I think a big ego only hinders you competitively, but it also hinders the ability to say something but not mean it, you know.
That's true. That's very true. I feel like, yeah, the closer the community is, like Australia, you guys are like actually the kings of banter. You see that stuff all the time, even from some of the teams. Even like the own
Oh
teams
yeah.
will pull it out, and it's just like, oh my god, just like click on Hunter's history, and you got
Just click
yourself
on
a
Until
story on
Twitter
its own.
history.
Yeah. um.
Yeah, it's like that. I mean, he's not the only one. He's not definitely not the only one.
Oh no.
But I think it's just the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Australian is just like the accent just sounds great with banter.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like bloody hell.
Yeah. Very true. All right, I think that does it.
And the slang as well. coming up with random words.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I listened to this podcast where there's a guy that's Australian and he says some words that like I don't know what they mean.
Don't say them.
That's the
Don't
best
say
bit,
them.
because if you don't understand it, it's even funnier. You don't even realize you're getting bantered.
Yeah. All right. I think this is a great time to end the episode. It's been great having you guys on, and I think the reception for this episode has been really good. I hope you're surprised with the viewership that we've actually gotten. GetAmazed, because you were saying we're really excluding the North American audience by having it at this time, but I wanted to make sure that Elfishguy had gotten on. Dude, it was so great having you guys. Thank you guys so much, and yeah, any last words, any shout outs?
Follow us on Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah, same.
Give me that clout.
Ad handles right there, guys.
Oh yeah, wait, okay. How do you say? Wait, how do you say it with the right accent? Shout out, you say? Okay, I give
Shout
my
out.
best to say shout out. Okay, shout out to Team Symbios. It's my girlfriend team. It's a really good team.
Ooh, okay,
Only
okay.
masters. I mean, only masters, but it's a good team. Let's go.
Oh, that's
There you go,
cute.
better than me.
Jonah,
Do it, Jonah. Do it, Jonah.
Do what?
She's behind-
Do a
she's
shout
behind
out.
You do it.
I need to shout out my girlfriend. Shout out to my girlfriend who's only playing Syphyt. Doesn't care about Overwatch.
All right. Well, then I'll give a shout out to my girlfriend who's currently asleep.
I give a shout out to my girlfriend
It's
who's
midnight.
who is definitely not watching the stream and is not pissed at me for waking up at 7 in the morning instead of waking up and talking to her. I'm so sorry.
And I'm not shouting out Ducky. Bad luck, Ducky.
Oh, ooh. All right. That's a perfect time to end. Thank you guys so much for coming in. We will see you guys next time. We want to get another episode out next week, but for now, this will be it. Everyone, have a good morning, evening, or afternoon, and we'll see you guys around. Later, guys.